Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub. Here today, of course, with our friend Pastor Jim from Bergstrasse. How are you there?
Good.
Good.
It's a good day so far. Yeah.
It is a good day so far. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we were chatting about, well, frankly, we were just chatting about like human decency and about how it's tough out there. It's a little tough. Um,
Yeah.
And I think we all have to own it. We all have to own our little part of it. I mean, I'm not just talking about violence and that stuff. This is much more subtle than that. But this is about just, we've talked about intolerance before, but this is more than that. This is just general human kindness and niceties. And
Yeah.
it's hard.
It, it's a lot deeper than what's on the surface there with that. And I think, at least in my world where I am at, and yes, I'm guilty also. I'm not perfect, but we have lost kind of respect for everybody. It just seems so much easier to just sort of, I'll use the word bash one another,
Yeah.
bash one another with our words. Sometimes we use our fists. Sometimes we even go as low to do violence. And it's just really difficult to live these days. Again, this is my experience, but even what I see going on around the area and even beyond, it really makes me sad that we've lowered ourselves to a level where we can't live with each other. It's all about what I believe, and you got to do what I want to say. And it's like, man, I remember days when I could disagree with a friend or I could disagree with a family member, and we'd still sit around and have coffee or have dinner together and kind of respect one another. And
Yeah.
it's kind of sad. I am I'm actually reminded of some in a previous congregation that I served. They had sort of like this credo that they used for themselves, and the very, very first sentence was, "We believe that the way we treat one another is the fullest expression of how we live our lives."
Hmm.
We believe that the way that we treat one another is the fullest expression of how we live out our lives. And that treating isn't always, it's not perfect, but it's honoring each other. It's respecting one another. And yeah, my hope and my prayer is that we can kind of move toward that way again.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you were talking about it, I was thinking to myself, well, where did I learn that? Where, I mean, yes, my parents, of course, right? I mean, you learn those kinds of things from your parents, but like, so they tell you stuff and they model good behavior, but how do you get to practice it? How do you practice? And then how do you, of course, like make mistakes and then have to have that behavior sort of reinforced? Like, how do you learn that stuff?
So I think you use the word, you practice it.
You practice it.
You practice it. And you practice it on everyone, not just the people you know, not just mom and dad or siblings or grandparents.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned some of that also from my grandparents. Although, I didn't really have grandparents available much in my younger life. But I know many people where the grandparents are the ones that help kind of instill some of that. And I also think, I think I'm also remembering some things as from when I was a younger person, a long time ago, of like, even if I did something wrong, it was more hurtful when someone says, "Well, you're wrong. You shouldn't do it that way." And I wonder if we could change that too. And maybe I'm the only one that felt, that I had fingers pointed at me, and because when that happens, I kind of like, cower away. And
Right.
would be a part of it. So
Right.
I think even though we might think that there's a different way to do whatever, I think it's us if we help that person to see a different way, to model. How do you introduce something different? How do you introduce a different way, and not just say, figure it out for yourself.
Right.
Or, and that's, I see a lot of that. I see a lot of that in the world too. It's so much easier to say that and then walk away, because it's just sort of like, I have one up on that person. Well, no, that's not what it's about.
Yeah. And I'm thinking too that this is like, everyone's talked about like, the new normal. I'm not sort of liking the new normal, because I feel like behaviorally, we all mean. I mean, people are mean. I've had my moments, but you're right. I think we have to model a better new normal so we don't go too far away.
Yeah.
Decency.
So I jokingly, when I hear someone say the new normal or normal,
yeah,
to myself, what is normal?
Well, right.
Your normal is different than mine.
Right.
And we live together,
Right.
not together,
right.
together in the world. We have different thinkings on some subjects.
Yeah.
Many things we're alike, but there are some things that we aren't alike in.
Right.
And that's normal.
Right. And I want that to be right. And it's good. I'm going to put a value judgment on that. It's good to have differences, because then you expand yourself, whether that's your mind, your spirit, your faith, your whatever. You expand yourself when you can see that person's perspective. You can look at it through their eyes. You can feel those feelings.
Yes. It's called growth.
Oh, right. Growth.
It's called growth. And it's not just for the little wee ones among us.
Right. And it's not
adults.
Right. And this is internal growth. Although I'm just going to make a little joke. One of my friends said, I'm putting on the COVID-20. And I was like, oh, girl, don't talk about that. That's a whole lot of growth, man. So, but you're right. And I think if I'm not trying to make too much of this, but I think if we're not going to be conscious of it, put it right in the front, that things are going to be unattractive.
It's got to be part of our everyday behavior.
Yeah.
It's got to be part of our everyday behavior, in actions, and how we even treat ourselves, and how do we treat one another.
I was thinking about it as I was driving the other day, and I was getting hot in the car. I mean, not physically, but I was grouchy about some driver. I saw a sign I didn't like. I saw somebody wasn't wearing a mask. I was hot. And I after about like 10 minutes, I was like, wait, hey there. If you're getting this hot about this stuff, you got to think about what's going on inside of yourself. Because I had to take a minute and go, all right, okay, all right. Yeah. And then I had to go, if you're mad like this, what will that do to the rest of your day? What will that do to the relationships you have with the people that you are going to see next? And I was like, you're right. Because if I'm this hot, I'm going to get to that person's place and go, do you know and then I would just continue and that's not right. So I walked for the next 20 minutes in the car. I walked myself through getting through it.
And the thing is, it's respecting their differences. They're not going to agree with you, and I'm the same way. I get frustrated with people don't do things the way I think they should. And I can still live me without hurting you because you're different, or because your behaviors are different. But yeah, we can do that. So and as part of our conversation, and a little bit of disclaimer, so we had talked a little bit about this a few days ago, so we kind of knew what we were going to talk about today. But I recalled a book that I didn't realize that it was this old. And some of you may remember a book by Robert Fulghum. It's called All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And for those of you that are wondering, this copyright edition is 1986.
And when he showed that to me, I thought to myself, it's that old? I mean, I remember that book, but I was like, whoops, I didn't think it was, I thought it was, significantly newer than that.
Same here. But, it's interesting. And as I even just read the list of things on the back, the book itself goes into various stories that Robert talks about, of these different things that he learned. But on the back, he has a list of things that he learned in kindergarten. And I also want to say, too, that I didn't go to kindergarten.
Neither did I.
So when we were talking earlier about where did we learn some of these things, and we learned them at home, or we learned them from grandparents or friends, he also mentions here, too, that they may have learned them in Sunday school. And I probably learned some of them there, too, but, I would have never thought of it that way.
Yeah. I would say, when we're going to talk about this list, I learned a lot of these I had a full day daycare education program. My mom was a single mom at that time, and so when I was 3 and 4, that's what I did. I did a full day daycare program, and that's when I learned those things.
Yeah. So my full-time daycare when I was 3 or 4 was tormenting my mother and my brothers.
Which is how you learn
these things.
Right. So tell us some of the things that are on the list, because I think for those people who recall that book, you're thinking to yourself, I can't remember what's on there. I remembered sharing. You have to you should share things, and that was always hard for me. It was always hard for me to share my things with people.
So I'll just go down the list. So most of what I really need to know to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain. But there in the sand pile at Sunday school or at home, these are the things I learned. Share everything. Play fair.
Yep. Don't
hit people. And I just want to say those two were always a challenge in my growing up with younger brothers.
Yeah, at that time I didn't have siblings, so I never hit people, but I remember hearing my teachers being like, "What? Don't hit people. Don't hit people." That was a common thing to say.
So these next two were a favorite in my house growing up. Put things back where you found them.
Oh, yes, exactly where you found them. I can hear my mom right now. Put it back, Ellie.
Clean up your own mess.
Yep.
Oh, and this was whenever we went visiting anybody. Don't take things that aren't yours.
Oh, did you or your brothers go to somebody's house and go, "That's really cool," and take it?
No.
Okay, so can I tell the story of the first time I stole? Okay, that makes me sound like I'm a career criminal. No, I may have been 2 or 3. We were at a, so I want to say the name of the store, but nobody around here knows that they didn't have it here. Like a CVS, a drugstore. And we were coming out and, well, I'm just going to say it's not my fault. If the cashier wouldn't have put grape chapstick at 2 or 3-year-old hand level, the problem would have been solved. However, they did. So I took it. It's awesome. And Mom says, and I don't remember this part. Mom says I was walking out into the parking lot and putting it on. I was all proud of myself. Because grape chapstick, it's amazing. And you're just putting it on. And she said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm putting on grape chapstick. And she said, where did you get it? And I was like, the store. Like, that's where we were, Mom. And I said, the store. And she's like, what? Well, did you pay for it? And I was like, no. Well, why did you get it? And she said, because I said, because I wanted it. And she said, well, you have to pay for things. You can't just take them. And I said, but it's mine.
And do you know what, Kelly? I bet there are hundreds of thousands of other people watching this and saying, I did something similar.
We walked back into the store. I had to tell the cashier what I did. And because I couldn't pay for it, and it was supposed to be for me, and so I had to pay for it, even as a 2-year-old, that's what my mom said, because I didn't ask. She said, well, if you can't pay for it, then you have to give it back to her because it's not yours. And I thought I was going to die. I handed it back to her, and then she threw it in the trash. There were a lot of lessons that day, man. A lot of lessons.
Oh, yeah. And guess what? They made a difference because you're still talking about them. They've been a part of your life and your story. Yeah.
Yeah. I learned that lesson. Yeah. Don't take things that are not yours.
Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands. We've never heard that one in the last 8 months.
Well, I mean, isn't it fascinating? Like, that's on this list, which has nothing, which, was 30 years ago. And
yeah. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
I mean, that was always one of the things that my mother always said. Wash your hands before we eat. And then here's the next one on too that also had a wash. My mother could probably be a millionaire if she had a nickel for every time that either my brothers or I came out of the bathroom and she says, did you wash your hands?
Right. Did you flush? Yeah.
Did you flush? Yeah.
Oh.
We make light of these things, but they are so part of our basic, how we care for ourselves, and then how do we care for one another. Warm cookies and Coke are good for you.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
Live a balanced life. Learn some, think some, and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work some every day.
That's hard. I think for most adults. I think kids find that balance pretty regularly.
Draw or play every day. No, I got some things I got to do. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody just works some.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Huh.
Take a nap every afternoon.
Okay, I can't do that. I find that, okay, I bet every single viewer is like, nope, that's lazy.
So you know what? So last fall, I visited my son and his family in Italy. Every day, between 1 and 3, I think it was, everything shut down. You could not go to a store. You could not, everything. And it was like, huh, this is different.
That's a total cultural shift. Yeah.
Not that everyone took a nap, but there was a break of the busyness.
Yeah.
There was a break of the busyness of the things that kind of direct us. Restaurants, I remember restaurants that closed down in the afternoon. It would open up for dinner at maybe 5.
Yeah,
maybe.
Lots of times 7.
It's usually 6 or 7. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So take a note. When you go out into the world, watch out for traffic. Hold hands and stick together. Every time, take your brother's hand. We're going to cross the street here. Take your brother's hand. Yeah. And here's the one that I think kind of, is sort of like the cream, the epitome of all of these. Be aware of wonder. Let the uniqueness of what you see in the world transform you. Allow it to sit and make you want to be a part of it, to listen, to share it, and in whatever. And that wonder is not always nature. That wonder is also about the people you meet. The wonder about people who look differently than yourself, the people who have a different profession, the people who have a different kind of family, people who live in a different neighborhood. Wonder about how they live and how they experience life. Let them share it with you. It's not about us wanting to give to someone else. It's about letting them also give back to us.
I love the wonder.
Yeah. That's another one adults forget to do.
Yeah. Right. I think that's a perfect place to end.
Go out, experience the world. Let it give you life.
Right. And practice it. Practice it.
Practice it. Amen.
Thank you, my friend, as always.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.
See you next week.